All right. So tell me about your ClickUp leveling up.
I used the technology today to share a new ClickUp card with you, and I attached an email from my inbox to that card, all through Claude without sending any messages, using Carbon Voice or email. I resisted the temptation to do all those other things. And I was like, how would Alex want me to do this?
Look at that. Oh, you got me smiling. It's a busy day. And I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You must have slept well last night.
I actually woke up this morning at 4 and decided, I might as well go to the gym.
Yeah.
So I got a good leg workout this morning with the fellas, and from 5 till 6. So I've been hard at it today.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big win. So I think that what we've been talking about for the podcast is I think that for our social stuff, that we're applying the lessons of the TVI every day right now. And it's not straightforward, right? It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 1 step sideways. Connor and I were talking earlier today about dolphining, like the experience of kind of coming into conscious awareness and then not, and all that. So, hey, Connor. So yeah. So my proposal for our podcast moving forward is just that we have a free discussion about what we got going on. Obviously, we want to announce you're talking at the SIMA conference here in a couple of weeks.
Yes. August 18th, I'll be in Savannah, Georgia to present Design Your Exit to the Snow Ice Management Association's annual leadership conference. And there'll be all the business owners and their top people will be in attendance at that conference. We prepared a special presentation for the amount of time that was allotted to them and created a revised workbook so they could follow along and gain some understanding of how to go about getting their company better prepared. And then also incorporated our newly developed transferable value index assessment into the presentation, which I have not incorporated in the past, but I think they'll be very happy to see that as a online result. If we can maybe just collaborate now on getting that Mentimeter into the presentation so that it shows the results, that would be like the next generation.
Yeah, that's the vision. Connor and I were talking about it earlier today. It's like, how do everything is TVI, everything leads to TVR. Like we know that path adds so much clarity for people. So how do we put it in front of them? I think that SIMA conference will be a great place for us to practice doing that. So
yeah.
So my proposal today. So we talked about. I want to talk about this experience that we had. So last 6 months we've been implementing the Kara Smith Brown revenue engine, and so Kara's team was kind enough to do some in-kind trade with us to get us kind of set up and oriented. We built out, for anybody that's not familiar, which is going to be most of the 3 other people watching this, is you've got 3 funnels. Your first funnel is people that don't know you. Those are records. Funnel 2, these are people that have some level of awareness from you, ranging from they've opened to some emails, they've clicked on some ads, all the way to like people that have gone through a sales process but decided not to buy. And then your third funnel is customers. And so I spent the better part of the spring setting up the infrastructure in HubSpot attuned to TMG for the revenue engine. And then where do you start? Well, you should probably just start with your attention on funnel 1. But I think that's probably our place to start, is what did we learn by putting all of our attention on funnel 1 in the last couple of weeks?
Well, it creates awareness. However, the sales cycle or the results of it will not be determined for months or even years based on how much resonance we create with them through our marketing campaign. So it's a long-term investment in increasing brand awareness. Has to be done for long-term success, but perhaps if we're starting out, it might be a little unsatisfying in the way of business results.
in the short term.
in the short term, as they pertain to items on the financial statement. There's going to be a P&L hit. We just like to have something in the revenue side from it.
And so, Connor, I think like we were talking about this, like there's probably like nobody saw this. I mean, I guess, Byron, you kind of intuited it and kind of waved at it. And I didn't pay any attention to that, but, I guess like, what did we see? What did we see internally that other people, Connor, are going to see? Like when they're trying to raise so actually, better yet, Connor, why don't you give some context about why we even revenue engined this and the goals, and then we can talk, because that'll be probably pretty transferable for other people as to like what our why was, and then we can talk about our experience recognizing the 2 and 3 gap.
Yeah, I mean, our why was we made a commitment to focus on building, say, long-term transferable value at TMG, and so in that effort, there was some self-reflection and good conversations that we had as a group of how do we want the McFarland Group to be perceived in the market, and how are we going to go about delivering our services in a packaged or more intentional way so that we can bring more people into our universe, and how that connected to the revenue engine. And Alex, what you and Byron have led is, one is we need to kind of go back out and create awareness of what specifically are we doing, which is we're an M&A advisory firm. And that was an exciting thing to get around and an exciting vision to talk about amongst a group. And I think through that excitement, we naturally went to, let's focus on pushing out there who we are, and make people aware of that. Now and that's funnel one. And to Byron's point, that's a long-term play. It's a long-term investment, and it is needed. And we will reap benefits from it, but in the long term. So balancing that with the realities of being business owners and needing to also focus on 2026 plan, it has made us aware that we need to focus on funnel 2 and funnel 3 as well at the same time and devote resources there. So it's a balancing act, and yeah, it's we're just starting, say, the second half of 2026. But yeah, that's a little bit of kind of where we are today.
I had a realization this morning as I was showering after the gym that there's a quadrant analysis that consultants often use, which is cost and impact. Like, you got cost on one axis and impact on the other. And you've got things that cost a lot and have a high impact, and you got things that cost very little and have a high impact. And I was like, dawned on me that the thing that costs very little and has a really high impact is getting on the phone and calling people that already are aware of you and you haven't talked to in a while. And you can lose sight of the value of that connection and just surprising them by thinking about them and calling them and asking them how it's going. And so today I had 2 conversations with 2 clients I haven't talked to in quite a while. And we didn't talk about any of our service, but both of the conversations revealed challenges that they were dealing with, that they were happy to now to have somebody that understood them and was capable enough to help them think through what the challenges are and perhaps provide some remedy. So in both cases of the calls I made this morning to people that would be in funnel 3 resulted in, I want to continue this conversation. Thank you for calling. So I just wanted to bring that out, is that we can tend to make things harder than they probably need to be.
Agreed. And I had a shared example with an existing client. Been reaching out sporadically over the last 9 months, and timing was right, where responded and got a meeting this week, and again, spent 75% of the meeting catching up on how things have been personally, and on the business front. And last 25% of the time talked about some challenges that he was facing, and have another conversation scheduled for next week to just continue on seeing if there's, if now is the time to try to fix or work on any of those challenges.
So you had luck there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's a proven concept, proven formula.
Yeah.
So I think the thing that's like really key here is this is a long ass project, right? This is a big, the whole idea is like, hey, when we all took the TVI and we reflected around new client acquisition, realized, oh wait, like we're overly concentrated in how that new business comes in. So what's a 5? Let's go build a 5, right? A 5 is it's not connected to anybody in particular, and it's systematized and it's always running. And I think that one of the things we've talked about is like, oh wait, we want to set realistic goals for our clients and for ourselves. And really like we can, I think, really focus on ourselves is let's go from like a 2 to a 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that, it would be like, okay, we're to go from a 2 to a 3. That means that all the partners are having conversations with all of our clients and all of funnel 3 and 2 regularly. And then how do we go from a 3 to a 4? So I think it's just a really interesting kind of like going to be an interesting lesson for us that we're going to be able to share with our clients is they're like, well, how do I build transferability in this domain? It's like, well, let me tell you about what we did, and maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, and I think the other aha that came from our vision setting of how do we at the McFarland Group build, say, long-term transferable value in the business was how we communicate with our clients, or we frame potentially how we can help them in solving their challenges. So, oftentimes in the past, we were doing it on a very, say, individualized or custom approach. And now knowing that, we want to focus on building our long-term value and bringing value to the client, speaking or bringing them into our world, or thinking about framing or scoping the project in a specific way. So that helps us be at our best and bring the best people to the table for essentially where they're at or what we're trying to work on. And that's been around us developing this transferable value report, and which is ultimately an assessment for business owners on how they can see building value in their companies and ultimately realizing it in the way that they want. I think in our world of focus, not that we're changing the conversation that we're having with our clients, but essentially maybe focusing how we can help solve or work with them on that challenge in a way that's has a process around it, so that we as a team can execute it in a more efficient, better, ultimately way.
Well, that relates to a post that Alex had on LinkedIn yesterday that he offered as perhaps this is content we should be discussing today, which is around bringing people into your organization as employees and having a well thought out onboarding process so that your new employees have an excellent experience being brought in the organization and feel, safe, respected, and know how they can contribute. And I said, well, that's awesome, because if we did the same thing for your onboarding of clients, where your clients, everybody was playing their role as the new client is being onboarded, which arguably we've done a fairly consistent job at, but not everybody's doing it the same way other than data collection and discovery. But if the purpose of that onboarding is to reveal to them what value do you have in your organization that would be available to you under various circumstances. You want to transfer your company? Here's what value might be available. Which method makes the most sense? Here's the report that talks about the value report. And then from there, it gives the client and us enough clarity to say with confidence, this is what makes sense to do next, because it's it's being done thoroughly and thoughtfully. And thorough is has been one of our core values from day one. And the standardization now is what's different, which is what Alex has been pushing for, is to come up with standards that we could say we're following to assure that they get the best experience as they're being brought in. So like in your world, Connor, doing the transferable value report in conjunction with the performance equity comp design we all along, we've thought, gosh, if we only had done all this other work, we wouldn't be dealing with these unanswered questions in plan design. Like, where are we going? And how does the performance equity now connect to where we're going? And a lot of that you were doing in real time with them. So at least now we know from our experience that marrying the equity compensation plan to whatever path you have puts so much more success, makes it much higher likelihood of success that the plan will make sense and it'll improve behavior. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's not that in the past we haven't connected these plans to the outcomes that the business owners are seeking or the goals that the business owners have, but it's just how we've gone about doing it, where, to your point, we get some of the information up front, but we spend a lot of time in plan design. Maybe if we don't have a full picture, trying to understand what should all the payment events be and how should we structure the payment schedules or the vesting schedules that tie to those. And so again, we're just kind of reorganizing or reprioritizing how we're delivering a performance equity compensation plan, whereby we're going to really focus on the business owner at the outset, and that's going to be our key focus. And from that, everything else can be connected, and again, making it just a better overall experience from the business owner side and then from the participant side, because there's a story or a narrative that's well thought out that can go along with the delivery of the plan. And that's the success, I think, with the TVR PEC track that we're out pushing.
You mentioned narrative. So Byron, you want to talk about what one of the folks that we're working with, kind of how they saw it and what they talked about? And I remember we were talking to the political consultants earlier this week, and they, for them, what clicked when they were thinking about how the TVR and how it all is going to kind of come together?
Well, let's start with the transferable value index. They both we had a prospect who were presenting a service, presenting to them our services, and we asked them to take the transferable value index, and they did, and they revealed in the meeting, in the opening discussion as we were going through the results, that they didn't want to take it. It frustrated them that they had to take it, but then they both took it, and their scores were within like 2 or 3 points of each other, which made them feel like, wow, we're both we're clear-eyed on where we are. So now what do we need to do to improve our scores? And how does this tie into your service? And I went through how we would then need to clarify the exit path that would be most likely to occur. And given that their age differences was 8 years, Alex? They were 8 years apart in age, something like that.
12 years.
12 years, 8 apart. Years. Yep. So we had 2 different exit timetables. There was no way they were both going out at the same time, unless, of course, they sold to an outside buyer. But that then created the energy for them to start talking about that difference, which they had not ever talked about. At least they were aware they were older and younger, but they had never broached the subject of, well, how are we going to do this? And the catalyst to that was, we want to try and retain these key people, and we want to design an equity compensation plan. And we were able to then say to them with confidence, if you use our service with the transferable value report, then we will be able to pair the exit timetables with the incentive plan awards, and bring it all together so it actually improves the probability of success at both one or both exits. And that was like eureka, like, so that really created, and one of the gentlemen referred to it as, can we keep this evergreen? Which I was like, evergreen. Oh, keep it green perpetually. And I'm like, yeah, we'd have an ongoing relationship with our retention assurance support plan where we keep the plan up to date, move it towards its ultimate payout event, whether it's a management buyout or sale to outsiders or some in-service payment method. But there's like, oh man, it's a total continuum of service from help me crystallize my future, help me figure out what the risks are that are going to prevent that future from becoming reality, which in this case, the priority was retaining the talent and rewarding them. And then from there, it'd be like, now how do we go about improving the business performance using ongoing retention assurance and getting buy-in from the leadership team? So that was a great, like a, what do you call that? Like a proof of concept and practice was one of the early conversations we'd had about the marriage of those services.
One other thing I'd add to that is that these guys are really masters of messaging, and their instincts were immediately like, oh, by tying the growth in business value to this plan design, we're creating a story that our team can buy into. And I think that's something that we knew and understood already, but it was really interesting to see that validated by people whose whole business is, or not, I should say whole business, but a big part of their business is building stories, compelling stories that drive people to action. And so it's pretty cool to see that aligned as well.
Well, they're selling probably the most intangible product there is, which is the political image of someone. So now I get what you're saying about the narrative. I appreciate the clarity on that. So great recall.
Well, so we are definitely like seeing the fruits of our focus on TVI, TBR, not just in terms of like, oh, we're going to get added efficiency. We're going to have a higher, more consistent onboarding experience for our clients, which will also mean that we can more consistently onboard employees to provide that service and all the kind of internal benefits, but also that the clients are seeing that as well, which is cool. I would kind of be interested to hear about your guys' experiences on some of the operational changes that we have in motion. I think, one of the things is we've started doing a regular leadership team meeting. And so I guess I'd be curious if you guys could talk about how that fits into our mission of driving transferable value for TMG.
Yeah, it's, I always feel when we get together, good things happen, or there's good conversation and ultimately good results follow. And so again, especially with the focus on funnel 2 and funnel 3, getting together and sharing wins or getting different perspectives on how to go about essentially focusing on funnel 2, which would be, people that are aware of us or have demonstrated some interest, or just say existing clients that we might need to follow up with or haven't talked to. That's been kind of in the last, say, 2 weeks in those meetings has been really helpful for me, and something that I've enjoyed of how these, say, weekly strategic meetings have helped spur or hold accountable us to win in the short term for our 2026 plan, knowing that we're still continuing to make long-term investments, in the funnel 1 or just in the awareness bucket.
I really appreciate the discipline that Alex has been bringing to that in his facilitation of it. We know when the meeting starts, or we know what day it's on. We know what time it starts. We have an agenda, which he's managing and has a time clock that keeps us on track, that we don't go down rabbit holes, which are pretty common for most organizations, us included.
Yes.
And then it gives us a forum to actually talk about and vote on the most important issues we want to address while we're checking on our progress. So we're not avoiding our progress. We're building out a scorecard and rocks and and goals to monitor our progress against. But I think more importantly, it gives us a routine to get into conversation about what are the issues and prioritize, and then, address them, solve them, and then hand them off responsibility and then hold that person accountable to following through to get it done. I just appreciate that structure. And if most people that are listening, they'll appreciate that's what most of these operating systems are built on, is EOS or Bloom or any of the others, or Rockefeller habits.
It gets back to what Alex shared with us at the beginning, and I'm probably not going to quote this correctly, but we don't rise to our visions or our goals or our aspirations. We fall to the habits that we have.
Yeah.
And so I think for us is, everybody, it's important to have a vision that's enticing and meaningful and engaging, but to get there, you can't do it on motivation. So it's how do we just build good habits? And so on the internal side and the internal meeting, it's really been about how are we building good habits, and then, doing it consistently weekly, and over months, it'll become natural to us. But that's been an important thing. So one is just the regular scheduled meeting at the same time with the discipline to the schedule, but within the meeting, really having us focus on putting in place the habits that we want.
Well, I, for one, am a creature of habit, and I've not had a real clean operating system for myself to run on until now, where I have been convinced to use AI and the new tech that we have for project management. And I don't know if I shared this I was going to share this with Alex earlier, but I'll share it now. I did something I'd never done before. I used Claude to assign a task to Alex, and I attached an email from my inbox using Claude. So I never touched any keys. I didn't type anything in, and I didn't use Carbon Voice or any async voice to voice. I used the system that I've been pressed into using. And I was like, wow, that really worked out slick. And the second thing I've done is I've used Claude with that project management system. Every morning, my habit, first thing I do when I turn it on is I say, Claude, give me my to-dos. And my list of to-dos comes down. And throughout the day, as things come up that I need to do, instead of writing it down first, I go to Claude and say, give me a new ClickUp card for this to do, and give it a date. And that has reduced all the resistance to me adopting or integrating that new project management tool. Whereas before, when it was all manual, I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I'm like so happy with AI now. I'm an AI evangelist now, as far as it applies to voice to text to commands.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool to see your guys's evolution, because I mean, we've been endeavoring on this for some time, and I know I've been advocating for directionally for this for years, and but it's like the tech is in a place where it really has overcome kind of the final obstacle, which is learning new systems. And it's like, oh, you don't have to learn new systems. You could just treat this one tool as if it was your personal assistant, and then it interacts with all those systems. And that has just been a revolution, I think, for us and for other firms. So I guess if we were to point at anything, there's probably some good stuff to be gained for any new tool. It has to be able to talk to the AI natively. So, well, cool guys. Well, I think that's probably enough for today. Anybody else have any closing thoughts before we wrap? I think, Byron, next week you're going to go fishing with some fellas from Omaha and go rip some lips.
Yeah, there won't be any drones there to
rise the fish out of the water.
To traumatize the fish.
We'll have to add that into the episode, maybe. That would be our closing series. Yeah.
Yeah. Might get a call from PETA or something. That one might.
Well, luckily we have nobody. Luckily, our following is our, our aunts. So,
right.
Yeah, it'll be good. So, we'll have fun out there, and we'll be sure to push the SIMA conference, and we'll just wrap here. Come back next week.
Awesome.
Great.
All right, thanks, guys.